Amara was a woman who believed in love. From the time she got married to Emmanuel, she gave her whole heart to her husband. She worked hard every day, selling fabrics in the market, running around to keep her small shop alive, and making sure there was always food at home. To people outside, it looked as if Emmanuel was the strong man of the house. He always dressed in fine clothes, always carried himself like a big man, and even spoke like someone who had money. Whenever there was a wedding or a burial, Emmanuel was among the first to arrive, wearing a border with dark shades, walking as if he owned the world. People respected him. They thought Amara was lucky to have such a husband. But the truth was very different. Emmanuel contributed little or nothing to the home. He had no steady job. He woke up late, moved around with friends, and always talked about big business deals that never came through. Most times, it was Amara's sweat that paid the rent, bought the food, and even funded the car Emmanuel drove around to show off. Amara never complained openly. She loved her husband and covered his shame. If neighbors or relatives asked, she would smile and say, "God has blessed us. My husband is working on big projects. Very soon, everything will show." Deep down, she knew she was carrying the weight of the marriage, but she hoped that one day Emmanuel would change. There was another pain Amara carried silently, the pain of not being able to conceive. She had been married for 5 years and still had no child. Her mother-in-law sometimes called on the phone to drop careless comments like, "Amara, when will you give us grandchildren? Time is going." Other relatives whispered behind her back, saying she must be barren. One day, after endless months of trying, Amara went to see a doctor. She was nervous as she sat in the small hospital room, her fingers twisting the edge of her handbag. The doctor, a kind elderly man, looked at her results and sighed softly. "Madam Amara," he said gently, "there's nothing medically wrong with your womb. The problem is stress. Your body is overworked. You hardly rest. You hardly eat well. Your system is too tense to allow conception. You need to slow down. Rest more. Let your body breathe." Amara forced a smile, but her heart broke. How could she slow down? How could she rest when Emmanuel was doing nothing? If she paused her business, who would pay the rent? Who would feed them? Who would cover his endless demands? That evening, she came home and quietly lay on the bed beside Emmanuel. He was busy pressing his phone, talking to one of his friends about football. She thought of telling him what the doctor said, but then she looked at him, so carefree, and swallowed her words. She knew he would not understand. Instead, she buried her pain inside her chest and told herself to keep walking. One evening, Amara received a call that would later change her life. It was Cynthia, her childhood best friend. They grew up together in the same village, shared clothes, shared secrets, and even promised that no matter where life took them, they would remain like sisters. After secondary school, they went separate ways. Cynthia traveled and lived in another city, while Amara stayed behind, married Emmanuel, and started her business. Now Cynthia was back. She said she had just relocated to Amara's city because of work, but things were not yet settled for her. She was struggling with accommodation and needed a place to stay, at least for a short time. Amara, being the kind-hearted woman she had always been, did not think twice. She told Cynthia to come and stay in her home until she could find her feet. When Cynthia arrived, it was like old times again. The two women laughed, cooked together, and spent long nights talking about their past. They sat on the veranda, telling stories of old classmates, gossiping about who got married, who became rich, and who disappeared. Amara felt happy to have her best friend close once more. She trusted Cynthia completely. She never imagined that under her own roof, a storm was already gathering. Cynthia noticed the way Emmanuel dressed and acted. She saw the car he drove, the way he carried himself like a man of class. To her, Amara was lucky to have such a husband. She didn't know the truth, that Amara was the one funding the show. Cynthia, who always loved flashy things, began to envy her friend silently. She thought, Amara has been hiding this rich husband all this while. If only I had a man like this, my life would be sweet. Emmanuel too noticed Cynthia. She was beautiful, with smooth skin and a lively spirit. And unlike Amara, who was always busy working and sometimes came home tired, Cynthia had plenty of time to sit around, laugh, and flatter him. Slowly, Emmanuel started paying her extra attention. At first it was harmless smiles and playful comments. But soon, it turned into long conversations when Amara was away at the market. Sometimes Amara would come back and find them laughing together. She thought nothing of it because she trusted both of them. Before long, the unthinkable happened. Pause. Please wait. If you have watched until now, it is because you are enjoying the story. Please be kind enough to press the like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Also, do not hesitate to drop your thoughts about the story in the comment section. We reply all our commenters. Now back to the story. Cynthia and Emmanuel started an affair right under Amara's roof. Amara was blind to it at first. But little by little, she started noticing changes. Cynthia, who used to share everything with her, became secretive. Emmanuel, who once pretended to be loving, now came home late and avoided her questions. Rumors also began to spread in the neighborhood. People whispered that Amara's husband was too close to the woman living with them. One day, Amara returned home earlier than usual. She found the two of them in the sitting room, sitting too close, whispering and laughing. The moment they saw her, they both jumped up, pretending nothing was wrong. But Amara's heart shook inside her chest. Something was definitely wrong. Then, one evening, she caught them red-handed. Emmanuel and Cynthia were together in a way no friend and husband should ever be. Amara felt her whole world collapse. She could not believe it. Her best friend, her sister in everything, had betrayed her. And her husband, the man she had sacrificed so much for, had chosen that betrayal. There were heavy words, tears, and endless nights of pain. In the end, Emmanuel packed his things and moved out to live with Cynthia. Cynthia mocked Amara. She believed she had won the prize. She was proud that now Emmanuel was hers, and she told people openly that she was the better woman. To her, Amara had lost, and she had gained. But life has a way of showing people the truth. Not long after, Cynthia discovered that she was pregnant. She was overjoyed. She thought this was the final victory, that now Emmanuel would belong to her forever. She paraded her pregnancy like a crown. She even went around boasting that she had achieved what Amara could not. When Amara heard the news, it was as if a knife tore her heart. She remembered the nights she cried over her empty womb. She remembered the doctor's words about stress. And now, her best friend, who had betrayed her, was pregnant with her husband's child. Amara could not stay in that house another minute. She packed a few of her clothes in a small bag, her hands shaking. Tears blurred her eyes as she moved around the room she once called her home. She left behind most of her belongings. She did not care. She just wanted to escape the suffocating walls, the smell of betrayal, the sound of Cynthia's laughter. That night, she walked out of the house barefoot, with her wrapper tied loosely and her bag hanging on her shoulder. The neighbors watched in silence. Some shook their heads in pity, others whispered, but Amara kept moving. She felt as if fire was burning her feet. She did not stop until she reached her sister's house across town. There, she collapsed in tears. Her sister gathered her into her arms and wept with her. Amara's pain was too deep for words. But slowly, the shine began to fade for Cynthia. Living with Emmanuel was nothing like she had imagined. He was lazy, he never brought money home, and he started demanding things from her every day. When she complained, he became harsh and even raised his hand at her. Pregnancy was not easy, and instead of support, Emmanuel only became another burden. Cynthia had to find ways to feed herself, pay rent, and still answer to a man who gave nothing in return. That was when the truth slowly came out. She learned from neighbors and even some relatives that Amara had been the one carrying the family all along. It was Amara who paid the rent, who built the small house they once lived in, who funded Emmanuel's fine clothes, and who made sure there was always food on the table. Cynthia's heart sank. She could not believe it. She had destroyed her friendship, stolen her best friend's husband, and thrown away her dignity, all for nothing. She did not steal gold. She stole nonsense. Meanwhile, Amara, though deeply hurt, refused to let bitterness kill her. She returned to her business with full focus. She worked harder, expanded her shop, and gained more customers. Slowly, she began to heal. She surrounded herself with supportive family and real friends. With time, her life started shining brighter. Years later, Amara's business grew into something bigger. She was respected in the community. She found love again, this time with a man who truly cared for her. She had peace. She had joy. She had freedom. Emmanuel's story ended in disgrace. His lies finally caught up with him. He was exposed for fraud and thrown into prison. Cynthia was left to carry the shame alone. One afternoon, Cynthia gathered courage and went to see Amara. With tears in her eyes, she begged for forgiveness. She admitted her mistakes and told Amara she was suffering. Amara listened quietly. Her heart had long healed, and though she had no hatred left, she also had no desire to bring Cynthia back into her life. She simply told her, "I wish you well. But remember, not everything that looks sweet is truly sweet. Some things are just poison wrapped in sugar." And she walked away with her head held high. The lesson was clear. Cynthia thought she had taken a prize, but she only destroyed herself. Amara lost in the beginning, but in the end, she won. Because sometimes in life, what people are fighting to steal is not treasure, it is just nonsense.